Okay.
So that's what I want to do. What you were doing. There's a singer behind you.
Okay, so what you want is accompaniment style for a singer,
Yeah.
a duo. Yeah, I'm remembering now. Comping is punctuation. Comping is this. That's comp. And if the tempo's fast, you hear these guys and they barely punctuate. Accompanying though, you're going to do a lot more because it's just you and a singer. First of all, the chords will be fuller to cover more weight. So if I hit something you don't understand, let's try this approach at first, okay?
Okay.
Say stop. Just have me stop, and I'll explain it.
Okay, let's do this. If I know the melody, like, can you give me like the chords for the phrase?
Yeah, phrase at a time. That's
Okay.
a good idea.
That way
I like
I'll
that.
get it.
You're right. That's a good approach. So we don't have
so for this phrase,
long-winded
Yeah.
constant.
So like,
Yeah.
say-
So the first phrase is
Da,
it's
da,
very.
da. Okay,
So I'm
do
going to
that.
start on the word clear. It's very clear,
Right there.
and I'm going to play until our love is
Yeah,
here to
that's
stay,
right.
up to that much.
Okay, great.
2, 5, 1, but 2 is a dominant chord, right?
Right.
And I might throw a 2 minor in for the first half of the 5 chords allotted time.
So what's happening with that? Okay.
So it'll be 2 dominant, then 2 minor, and then 5, and then 1 sometimes. And sometimes I might just do 2 dominant, 5, and 1. And if I do a half-step approach to anything, I'm not thinking fancy, I'm just thinking half-step approach. Meaning if this is the chord, and I happen to do this, it's just a half-step. And this is just a half-step. That's similar to what you would play already, correct?
Right.
I'm going to repeat it. Different. I'll do it again, different way. Now there I'm adding chords to begin.
Okay.
I have to check the tuning. I didn't like what I heard.
So the first couple of times you were just doing just the chords without the additional.
I was, yeah.
Okay.
I am using approach bass notes. I like
Yeah.
to feel breaking up the bass. This is called cut time more than it is swing. Swing is more 4 time, 4/4, where there's a bass note on every beat.
I like that. Is that harder? That's probably harder.
Of course it is, because your brain has to join in much more.
Wow, man, that's good.
Yeah. Okay, so if we go. So that's. Those are all E flat dominant.
So you're playing all the flat dominants here?
Yeah, abbreviated forms, fragments. Like this is just a comfort voice, comfortable to hold. But there's not even a 7th in it. And here there's no root. Here there's no root on a 9th chord. I see it off of this add 9. So
That's a change.
then it's the change to the
Okay.
5 chord, but I'm putting the 2 minor in first.
That's the 5?
This is the 2 to the 5. 2 with the 5th in the bass. It's root in the bass, 5th in the bass on those 2 minor chords. And then half step into the D flat. So that's.
What was that?
Yeah, I'll come back to that. Now this style is called walking chords. It's a chord on every beat. It's just like walking bass, except you can't hear the bass much because you hear the chords at the same time. Walking bass would be if I didn't play a chord on every beat. The same amount of motion, but we just reserve the chords. That's also fun. Anything where you get to hear a boom, boom on every beat, something, whether it's just a bass note or a full chord, is fun to the ear. The ear likes that. But the ear like that sparse bass, the cut time. Cut time's really this in its purest form. Bass notes only on 1 and 3. But we make it conversational by that's cut time. Cut time is traditionally used if you need a bouncier tempo. A happy thing for a Fred Astaire movie or something. It's not as much jazz as it is happiness. If you know what I'm saying. I mean, it's just kind of light, kind of hard. But we'll go back to this. You want the walking chords now,
walking
huh?
chords.
What a challenge you've suddenly undertaken.
I mean,
It's a good one though.
I
If
love
you
that
do it
stuff.
enough, it gets easier. Like everything.
Can you name each chord you're doing?
We already did these. E flat 9, E flat 7, E flat 9, E flat minor 7 11, E flat minor 7, A flat 7 6, D flat D David Dog Hendrix, 7 sharp 9, D flat major 9. Half step into the 4 chord. This is G7 flat 5 leading into the G flat dominant 9. Let's go B9, let's see. It's bluesy. And this, it was B9. I'll explain why these chords are there in a moment. F13, no 9. Now this is B7 to B flat 9. B flat 7 altered. Sharp 9, sharp 5. Let's see. Now this is these are all E flat 7 type chords. Now instead of this, sometimes I'll push the bass from below. Just a pet favorite. This is A7 instead of E flat 7. A7 sharp 5 to be specific. Into E flat minor 7 to 11. But I told you I would tell you why all these extra chords are there. Because normally we just have nothing. Right there. So it has to do with approach chords.
Yeah, those were approach chords to the next.
To the next basic chord, which was this again.
Okay.
Every one of those was one of these. I'll put the roots on these strings right here so you can see me approaching here. I did them down here, but those roots are also here. So this was after. Our love is here to stay. Let's see, can I do that? That's what we did. Or twice here. Yeah. Far out. Yeah. If it were basic, it would just be normal progression flow of everything up a fourth, up a fourth, up a fourth. So that would have been. But then if you're going to linger that long on this one, it gives you time to have one more root. So maybe there's, or maybe another root in front of this one here, so that was where I went. Then if we start, you can see how a lot of these kind of things could happen. It's not because any of them are substitutes. There isn't a substitute in the bunch. Because I'm not saying, let's see, instead of D flat, you can count up a flat 17th and play an ameliorated fourth. It's nothing like that. It's just where do you want to go and how do you want to back up. It's a study in itself. You learn hundreds of ways to back up from where you're going. It isn't really commonly understood, but that's what a lot of these guys are doing. They've just done so many pathways. A lot of times because they know their music well enough, and their ears are sharp, and they know the song, they take chances and they don't work it out backwards. Seldom when they're experienced. They just start going forward and compensate so they land on the chord at the right moment. And that's what I tried to do here. I took a chance. I didn't know, I didn't work this out before he showed up.
Yeah.
I couldn't say for sure these roots were going to work. What I did is say, you got this much time, you got to get to F, and now you got to get to B flat. Now you got to, there's the E chord. I'm going to call that E now instead of B flat. It's 13 sharp 11. There was just enough time. If I had screwed up and gone, I'd say, whoa, you're on the B flat too soon. I would have played a bunch of other B flat 7 things, realizing, I arrived there way before I planned. Where you didn't plan it, you didn't gauge it accurately. But you're not really I'll speak for myself. I'm not a visionary. I'm not looking 3 bars ahead with a complete view of the staff paper or something where I can say, now I have 1.5 beats left. Stop and ask me. I've got 3.5 beats. I don't know. I just know when the song is going to arrive back here. I can tell that. And so can you when you hear. Right there is how much time we have. So you could have gone. Now we have to start thinking about getting ready to go back. So I used the 5 of the chord to go back. Right. This was the. So you could say, well, these are all heavy subs, not a sub in the bunch. They're all additions. Chord addition is a big, big deal, man. If you're going to add chords, that's a jazz thing, If you want to add color, the 2 main ways I probably told you before are not substitution usually. It's extend the chords that are already there, that make beautiful voicings out of them by adding in rich notes, extensions and stuff, altereds too sometimes. And then add new root lines. Make some more root motion happen. So you've heard this. Now what if we had done this? Then I would have had to jump back here no matter where I had landed, right? If I'd gone, then I get a call and Cesar says, Ted, you got to get back to 2. I say, okay. Wherever you are, you still got to get back there. Of course, you could have done it up here. You could have fit some form of the chord wherever you had landed. There she is right there. I'm thinking the letter names to get this kind of motion. C, F, B flat, minor, E flat 7. These are some old friends that we use to color it differently. We use instead of, why we don't use these there? Because they're all throughout the song already. These are the normal chords that, but we didn't hear it. It's like these extra roots that didn't get any love during the song, we give them some love, man, that's all. So let's go back to where we were making some concrete forms happen. So this is the 2 chord. You could have gone right to the 5, or like I just did, right to the 2. To remember this chord, you remember that the middle 2 strings of the guitar, the inner ones that is, and the outer ones are being played. And I bar all of them because it's easier for me to hold it. Theoretically, I should only bar that much, but right away my wrist is all cramped in here. For some reason, this is a little smoother. I don't know. By moving the bass up, you're on an extra root in the key of D flat, C flat. That's like still in the key of D flat if we do that kind of sound, right? But it's not a major diatonic key. But neither was this song because it already started out on a non-diatonic chord to begin with.
Okay.
In the 60s and 70s, you heard a lot of major extensions and straight triads too on the extra roots in the key. How many extra non-diatonic roots do we have in a major key?
How many extra roots?
Yeah. How many notes are in the scale, and then how many does that leave left over?
There's 8 notes in the scale.
Seven.
7 notes in the scale, and that leaves 5.
That's it. That's all we got. So it isn't 500 to memorize, or even 50. It's just 5. You can deal with it. One of them is a flat 3 chord. One of them is a flat 6. One of them is a flat 2. One of them is a flat 7. One of them is a sharp 4. That's it. There are 4 flats and 1 sharp. Again, flat 7 and flat 6, flat 3 and flat 2, and sharp 4. Those are the 5 additional roots in the key. We love to build major extensions on those roots, as well as other kinds of chords too. And that includes Lydian extensions as well, meaning sharp 11.
Why do you call them roots? Aren't they extensions?
These are tones in the bass, letter names, whether the roots in the bass or not. Letter names, like if you're in the key of D flat and you play a C flat chord, that's a new root that isn't in the major scale. The C natural would be in the major scale of D flat, C, D flat. C flat's hiding in the crack.
Okay.
She's an extra root that we want using. Extra degree, if you will. Degree of the key,
Yeah.
note to build chords from.
So you build a note on that.
Build a chord.
You build a chord on that note.
You bet. Not just me, you and everybody does. Anytime you play the key of A, what's that G chord doing there? That's not in the key signature of 3 sharps. If some rock and roll song does, or a folk song goes, what if they suddenly go, we don't call the tone police up, report them, man. I mean, it's still in the key of A, but it's a different shading. Extra roots, expanded. The whole thing I like to think of as an expanded sense of key. The American key became a 12-tone key, so it's no longer a 7-note key anymore.
At that point, does that mean modulation?
Now, modulation, it means what? The 3 words will cover it.
Change key.
Change of key, yeah, change key. 2 words, change key. That isn't a change key.
It's not.
We're still in A, aren't we? If you hear a song that goes, your friend says, what key? And you say A. Because key's the most important word we have in music theory, and that means the center. Tonality means what kind of key. So if it's in this tonality, that's a diatonic major key. For short, we just say major key. But if it's in a key that's using lots of extra colors, more belts around the core, asteroids and stuff, you know. So that's the more multi-hued key. It's not a 7-note diatonic key anymore. And frankly, a lot of American music you've grown up with is this way. A lot of stuff, man, gosh. More than not, by far. It's rare to see a song that just stays in the diatonic framework. They exist, but they're rare. Modulation doesn't usually happen. What? Call the newspaper. It just doesn't usually happen. We just don't have many modulations. The books see a lot of things as modulation that really are just staying in the key, just with flavor chords.
Because like some of the bossa nova tunes I play, they have, that's a good example. It normally doesn't stay, well, it's in the key, but there's also...
Song like Girl from Ipanema?
Yeah, there's not diatonic.
That has modulation.
Yeah.
A song like Meditation does not have modulation. There's not even one.
Okay, but it just has those extra chords.
Extra chords. Although there are a few toss-up places where it wouldn't kill anybody to think of certain little few chords in a row as a modulation, but there's no need for it. You know how that sounds, that song, Meditation?
Yeah, I play that song.
So the second chord of the song, the textbooks will say it's a modulation.
Second chord.
The second chord of the song. They're going If we were to go, then they're right, then it's a modulation. Because we're in a new key, right? Key means center, but this center doesn't change. I promised we'll go back to our song. The center is still A. Now 2 minor is the center, but in the large view, I mean, it's possible to say this is our key. But to convince me that this is a key, I'd have to hear where it takes over, but it doesn't, it just goes, it's still a 2 chord. That's a 4 minor. In other words, if it's just living there by itself without its own resources from its own key, why would we want to bother and say, we're in a new key? It's not necessary at that point. Sometimes we will go the opposite way if it lingers there for many beats at a slow tempo. That's because we get bored and want to go into its key to add flavor, but at these tempos, might as well make life easier and just say it's a 2. Instead of saying, modulation into the key of 2 by way of its own 2 and 5. It's easier to just think home roots, 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, and 1. Till this song goes 1, 7, but it's a dominant here. Because you can have any quality you want on these roots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 6, 2, 4, 3, 6, 2, 5, the bridge after 2 of those. 4 minor, flat 7, with Greene and flat 3 diminished by 2. And everything else is pretty much the same.